Hello, this is Looking Through the Glass with Sela and Giselle. We also have Grace with us today, and she's going to give us a little bit about her story. About, hold on, yeah, it's all. Wow, I can't even talk today either.
Well, it
She
is
just
a
made a comment
mouthful.
about me being tongue twisted, and that's what happens.
My brain stopped working.
Karma instantly.
That's how
I'll
I
hand it off
usually
to
go.
Grace.
Thank you, ladies. I really appreciate you having me on today. We are going to talk about suicide. It's been a part of my journey since a very young age, the idolization with it, the attempts at trying to, and it truly is the story of the miraculous because there's nothing that says I should be standing here except for grace. And
Yeah.
you'll find me on TikTok under 044 Grace. Grace is the meaning of my name. My name is Carrie Ann Inman, and the meaning of my name, I really didn't like it growing up because it's the male spelling of Carrie, Carey, and it comes from the Irish and it means from the dark ones. So when you're looking up the meaning of your name, like nobody wants to, even if it is like the dark haired ones, like from the dark ones, nobody wants that. And then
Yeah.
it wasn't until years later, I'd shared that story about it, and someone came up to me a couple of days later and said, your middle name, Anne, means grace. So from the dark ones, Grace is the name of the book that I'm writing of my life story and the podcast that we'll be launching soon. As for now, it's just 044 Grace on TikTok. And I'm under my full name on Facebook. So the reason I want to share with this is because according to statistics and studies, the numbers on suicides continue to go off the charts and it's down, in the adolescence, not teens, adolescents. My idolization started, my first attempt started when I was 10 years old. You know, we like to say the grass is greener on the other side, or, look what they've accomplished. But the white picket fence isn't always so pretty behind closed doors. It's not all it's chalked up to be in many cases. I learned very early that there were no monsters under my bed, that they walked tall and sat at the dining room table with me. And I had to learn how to survive through that. It wasn't until into my 30s that I actually began to live, and I was still surviving trauma.
Mm-hmm.
So my parents were both married before they married each other. And then my dad was on his next marriage after my mom. He had knocked up one of his attorneys, and it didn't take her long to realize that she had married a monster. And within a couple of months of him being born, he had beaten my brother pretty badly. And we woke up or came home from school 2 days later, and there wasn't a trace of it left in our house. She had moved her, my brother, and her entire law practice to Texas because that was the only way she could protect him, escape. Um, Around the same time, my grandmother passed away. About a little bit right before she left, my grandmother passed away. So they, got married, grandmother passing away, baby, and attachment issues really started to develop here.
Yeah.
So my safe place as a kid was during the day. I was outside up in the trees in the woods. At night, I was on the roof under the stars. The trees held me by day and the stars held me at night. And we had a super high pitched roof on the top of a 2-story garage, and I climbed to the top of it and jumped. And I was very acrobatic. I was a gymnast, so my body trusted itself. That was really been a saving grace is there was a trust of a deep knowing within me, and I rolled into it and I was fine and nobody ever knew about it. Around the same time as when my dad began to sexually abuse me. And the summer, my 7th grade year, he dropped me off in the middle of the night on my mom's doorstep. And that's when it stopped. But when we moved back a year later to our hometown, so she could have my sister as well as me, my mom hired my cousin to start watching us and helping with her so she could keep her career in the neighboring city. I don't recall his exact age, but my cousin's boyfriend was spending a lot of time at our house. This was the summer between my 7th and 8th grade year. He started climbing my bed and became my second molester. This lasted 3 years until my junior year, and when he discarded me, that's when I attempted to take my life a second time. My sister had taken a dietary supplement called Mini Thins. They're not on the market
Yeah, I
anymore.
remember those. I
One
remember
of them
those.
was like an Adderall for. I was, you guys. Today I'm 105, 10 pounds. In high school, I was 80 pounds, graduating 90, soaking wet. So I took the whole bottle of her Mini Thins. And there's no reason that my heart should not have exploded except for divine intervention, according to the doctors. The same year, I wound up getting overdosed again by another doctor who was trying to battle. I was battling strep throat on a 3rd relapse, and she had me on so many different medications with Sudafedrin trying to get me better. She overdosed me as well. I knew I was divinely protected young. I knew that there was just a greater force. I had no idea what it was. I was not raised in religion. But I still didn't want to be here. Even though I knew, both despite my best efforts, something wouldn't let me leave. I knew that there was something greater. I just didn't know what it was. And then I went on and graduated high school and became a hairstylist and did hair and struggled with sleep, just keeping structure. Like I was a light shining bright, but there was a part of me that was just dying, and I didn't have any control of it. I didn't have any awareness of it. And it was because when that happened to me with my dad, my brain had gone into protection mode, and I had blocked those memories completely out. So I was living with this deep, dark secret that, I had buried so deep. It wasn't even like a secret I was keeping to myself. It was
It was a
a
secret you were
secret I was
keeping from
keeping from
yourself.
myself. Right, right.
Yes.
Well, so I went to work for the family company, and it wasn't long. I had just come outside of my first failed marriage, had a miscarriage in that marriage, then had a miscarriage that I wound up getting an abortion for because the deductible was more expensive, and my dad sent me the $600 to the abortion clinic to have it taken care of. I went by myself. My mother found me hours later, bleeding out in my home. There is something greater and something deeper. Our intuition does not fail us if we listen. And my mother listened, and she found me.
Mm-hmm.
Shortly after that, my last attempt to take my life would happen in our corporate office. I made it to the top flight of our stairs. That was just the pressure of everything, and we kept all this with secrets. Nobody knew all these things were happening, that I was going through all these things. They were all secrets. I mean, my dad's wife didn't even know, and she was running a clinic to prevent abortion. So this time, when I let go at the top flight and went down backwards, hoping to break my neck, and was left with a couple of bumps and bruises, my dad and I both went through 6 months of IOP treatment, where I learned I didn't have a voice. I didn't even know it was okay to say that hurt me. Please don't do that. I was completely conditioned to tolerate abuse and not say anything. That it was disrespectful for me to say something.
Mm-hmm.
That's when I had my first flashback. And I sat there and it was like immediately I went into defense mode. And no, this man molested me. My dad mentally, emotionally, physically abused me. But he didn't do that to me. He didn't do that to me. So I called my dad, told him. We were going through the 6 months of IOP together because this was the issue. Me and my dad had become the issue. And everybody could see it. So we went and tried to work it out. And when I called my daddy to tell him what that man had done to me at 13 years old, he told me that I must have wanted it, or I'd have said something. And I completely froze. And my tears for myself froze on that day. I was able to cry, but not, there was like, they froze, and it was almost a decade before I got true tears from my pain. And when those tears were released, it lasted 3 days, streaming down my face. No, I was in a treatment facility, and my counselor touched my knee, and she said, "I'm going to need you to stop doing that." I said, "What am I doing?" She said, "You are not allowing yourself to cry." And I broke. And I called him after a week because I had cried, but I also went into more fits of rage that I didn't even know was possible, and made it where I didn't even want to sit in my own skin. I was so uncomfortable. But I didn't want to die this time. I just didn't know. These emotions that I had as a child that were taken from me were all exploding at the same. My mother always said, she could see something in me, and she was always afraid that if I ever did snap, I was gonna kill somebody before somebody could intervene.
Mm-hmm.
And I understood a crime of passion at this point in my life and got rid of all of my guns. I'm a Southern lady, and I grew up hunting. I love ammo. I would have went in the artillery with the Navy. But I knew and understood how people take other people out, and I didn't understand that my whole life. And I did sit there for a time with a gun in my lap, one handgun that I kept. But there was too much in me. I had too much. I had been through too much, studied too much, come to too much understanding and overstanding of psychology to know what my kids were sitting in. And if I gave up now, what were they going to have one day? What were they going to have today? What were they going to have tomorrow? Because what they were going to truly be stuck with was I wasn't worth living for my mama. And my kids were never going to live with that. So I sat there, and I had to step away from doing hair because the girl that was just a burst of light all the time was just seeping out pain. I couldn't walk into a gas station without somebody putting their hand on me and wanting to pray with me. There was no mask off. All pain surfaced.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget some of the looks. Because what do you do when the strong one breaks? how do you look at somebody, that you always looked to and called, and, she'll get you through it. Like, she could figure it out. Like, I was always the go-to girl. They were started giving my name out in high school. Healing taught me I never was the monster. I thought I was. Like, I really thought something was wrong with me, that I was messed up. And I was messed up. But it wasn't because something was wrong with me, it was because of the wrong that was done to me.
Mm-hmm.
You have to choose life. Every day you wake up and you make a choice. Am I going to choose to hold on to maybe the sorrows of yesterday, or what wasn't accomplished yesterday, or what I maybe failed at yesterday? Or am I going to open my eyes, give thanks that I have air in my lungs and I'm still 6 feet above, and just go, just be?
Yeah.
I thought this whole journey was about becoming something, but what I've learned is it's truly about unbecoming everything I never was, just so I could be. Not become, but be.
Yeah.
Be.
Yeah.
Without explanation, with just, this is who I am. Let me be.
That's
We
really
want to,
the
mold our children. I'm sorry.
that's really the hardest part, I think, about realization, is the unlearning everything that everybody taught you that you were, or that you are, getting rid of their idealization of you and having your own. And I think that was one of the hard, I think that I still struggle with that. I still struggle with that quite a bit.
There are many who struggle with that, because I'm not the only one whose path was laid for her.
Mm-hmm.
We're born into these families, and before we know it, we have a religion, we have a culture, we have, right, left, political
Mm-hmm.
stance. We have something to defend for the rest of our life, and it's not has had nothing to do with our actual identity.
Yeah.
But we'll spend the rest of our lives defending it, because that's who someone told us we were, and that's what we stand for.
And when you start to feel the change in you, where you're like, I don't agree with that, I don't want to be that, and you go to voice that, and you feel that you have the courage to voice that, it's shut down. Or you don't have the courage to voice it because you don't know how to voice it. And that's where a lot of people teach their, this is one thing I've grown to see, is they teach kids to not have a voice from a young age.
From very young age, from the beginning.
They're just a kid. They're just a kid.
But they don't know anything because they're just a kid. They haven't gone through anything yet. They haven't experienced enough yet, when they're so much smarter than that.
They see so much more than we can see.
They do. And they see, and we all form our own opinions one day.
Mm-hmm.
I've always said there's three sides to the story: yours, hers, and the conclusion I come to.
Mm-hmm.
Because you have to merge them together, and when you can see beyond what someone is saying, it doesn't connect.
I think your story, some of your experiences hits very close to Giselle's. Very, very close to Giselle's, especially the age and the beginnings of grooming is what you experienced, was beginnings of grooming, and she's been through the same thing. and blocking memories of these things out,
Oh yeah.
and then them coming to fruition here in the past few months. So,
Well, and I'm not sure if there's anything that's happened around, traumas, but according to, studies, when you suppress something like that, it's always going to surface.
Oh
yeah,
yeah. No,
Typically, it happens when our abuser
it
dies
will
or
come
we
out
face
one way
another
or another.
trauma,
It will come out
another
one
life
way or
altering.
another.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's there, it's buried. There's a whole lot more in our memory than we give credit for.
Oh yeah, no,
A whole lot
all
more.
it does is goes what we I always say the metaphor is just being put on the back burner. And that's all it is. At some point, it's like putting the popcorn bag, the old style popcorn, you're putting on the back burner and it's on and it's just going to continue to pop and at some point it's going to explode. And I experienced those flashbacks from a young age and they came back to me in more of a dream state than anything and but they were so particular and always came back the same and I was like I don't know how to handle this and I thankfully felt strong enough to go to my mom about it because I didn't know how to handle it. This was 6 years later, after 6 7 years later, and so I didn't know how to handle it and I went through that and then went through it again with a different person who manipulated me and when I was in an emotional part of my time and that the way you make yourself feel when you're in that situation after you face it you're sitting there going how am I supposed to take this and then all you can do is you can just shove it away. You don't know who to turn to. You don't know who to talk to. You don't know. And where I grew up in Vegas, they didn't offer help.
Mm-mm.
They didn't offer anything that would actually help me get through it. And I, was 14 years old. And then not even, and then that one was when I was like 15. But and then I remembered a whole nother one that happened before that, just in the last 6 months. Actually, no, 9 months.
Mm-hmm.
And that happened when I was,
12,
13, 14 years old. And that was with a 40-year-old man. That,
My neighbor.
that one hit me harder than any of them.
And that's where I say she was being groomed because it was more of he played it off as though there was a relationship to make the confusion even greater, to make her feel that she wasn't being violated when she absolutely was. And for anybody that's listening to this, ever, if you are 13 years old and there is a man that is anywhere from the ages of 18 to and above touching you, and I'm saying 18 is actually even pushing it far if you're 13. You know what I'm saying? But either way, you're being groomed. But they're saying that they're having a relationship with you. You're being groomed.
Yes.
They want you to think that there is a relationship so that they don't have any guilt on them. When the guilt is 100% on them and never on that kid. Period. I don't care.
Period.
I don't care.
Yeah.
Well, and that's what we don't, the grooming is.
It happens so fast and so subtle and so
It's
under your
easy.
nose. Like I said, it was my neighbor. It was he was married. His wife watched my youngest daughter. Thankfully there was nothing happened there, but he had his own daughter. Who knows what's happening to her now? You know what I mean? If there's any contact. Hopefully it's not. But here this man was grooming my 13-year-old child, and I had no clue. None. Zero. Zilch. There
And
was...
we never do, and there's,
behavioral
you face that, like, feel like there's been portions of this where the ways in which my mom, I mean, I saw her initial shock and response, but it's just like to actually like support me through it.
Mm-hmm.
That was probably the most um, assuring part of this was having already spent a decade studying psychology, my family coming to understandings when this moment happened for me. I knew the only way out of this was through it. And I didn't,
Yeah.
there were days and I didn't know if it would ever change, if this would just be the state of my mind forever.
Mm-hmm.
It was like having a nightmare with my eyes taped open. I
Yeah.
mean, I had a 120-pound Rhodesian Ridgeback dog who was picking me up off the floor to hold me, who wasn't going to the
Mm-hmm.
bathroom if I wasn't going to the bathroom, wasn't eating if I wasn't eating. And mind you, I'm facing all of this while my abuser is taking my kids through false protective orders against me and getting, their dad on in his back pocket, really. I mean, and I was trained to keep the peace. But how do you keep the peace whenever somebody's causing complete chaos in your life and
Yeah.
destruction? I mean, he's come from my family, from my children, and to, be told by the stepmom who got her kid out of here, she did what she had to do to protect her child. Like, that's a position of privilege. I'm not a lawyer. I was a stay-at-home mom.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's exactly what that is a privilege, A lot of
Well,
the,
it
like,
is. That's everybody's position. I feel like with this, it's not my kids, not my lane. That's not my lane. Is BS. How can you just sit there and watch somebody be burned?
right? How can you sit there and just so calmly watch somebody's life? They're being torn up from the inside out
And going
from
crazy.
past traumas, and of course, it's going to have psychological effects. You're in a down part. There's going to be wreckage, you know? But how do you take those moments and use them against them to manipulate the system? And
You
like with
continue
me,
to
when I was,
speak your truth. Like that's when I go silent and think that, I'm gonna whatever for just a moment, that's when the chaos begins.
Mhm.
When we keep the peace, we're keeping their peace, their lives from being destructed from the destruction they caused to my life. You want
Yes,
me to be quiet.
yes, I'm. There's a war inside here and inside here that they caused, and I'm supposed to sit here and be quiet about it. I'm supposed to just sit here and take it. No.
Right. Or with
Oh,
the
or it's
labeling
my
and the
fault.
the wanting a diagnosis on me. All they ever got was, I mean, a PTSD came after my son's dad passed away. The But how do you not have complex PTSD when you're trying to overcome your trauma while be still put in the face of your trauma and your kids are at the hands of your trauma?
Yes.
Yes. Every waking moment is absolute terror and more traumatizing.
Well,
It's
they
just
know it. They
putting
they know it's
trauma
psychological
layering
torture.
on top of each other. That's all that is.
Well, it's torture. It's psychological torture.
Yeah.
We sit here and we talk about, like, this is spiritual warfare, and they're
Mm-hmm.
after our children. They mocked me for years for my faith. Had a whole persecution in the courtroom, pulling
Mm-hmm.
up my videos where I was making declarations over the town. that trying to label me as crazy.
Hmm.
I found myself with absolutely zero liberties. Not even to
Nobody
cut the chicken's
realizes
head off, like a head off the chicken in my backyard without being concerned that I'm crazy, that I'm a
that you're doing
danger.
some kind of ritual or something, right?
Right. And all of a
Yeah.
sudden, but it's something that it needs to be talked about. It needs to be talked about more openly. People don't talk about it because of the way
No.
people look at you if they find out you have an idolization with suicide.
Well, and
Or,
there's
they
also
just think you
something
want
else,
attention. If
right?
somebody says
There's
they
also
don't want to
something
be
else that
here,
people
they
don't
probably
take
fucking
an
mean it.
effect. There's a lot of people that there's something else that people don't take an effect. When you have suppressed memories of abuse and they come forward, you start to think yourself that you are crazy because you're not quite sure what's going on. But then when you realize that these are actual memories, the amount of trauma that happens in that brain, there's rages that are completely uncontrollable because there's all these emotions that just all of a sudden, like she said, the popcorn, it bursts. And it bursts and it looks like a psychotic episode, but it is literally a traumatic experience. It is not a psychotic episode.
And it's one after the other.
And they happen so fast, and they happen before you even know that they do. Like there's just it just
Well,
and
and
you're sitting there yourself
I
going,
don't know if
what
you've
was
seen
that
some
all
of the
about?
content that I've been sharing, but what they're showing is these kids that are going through these divorces and, losing access to a parent and having it becomes hostile when the parents are hot. My parents battled for 15 years in custody court. 15 years, my whole life, from 5 to, I could say, I'm not going back over there at 17. It was a battle. I was reading court transcripts at 8. This, the PTSD, these children, the studies that they're doing on their brains in these environments are reflecting the same as war soldiers.
Yeah.
These children's brain scans. And I'm crazy.
Thank you. And and then you have one parent talking and then the other parent talking, and this is something that she experienced not as far as parents but as far as family members. When you're in that lowest of the low and you're experiencing and you're going through the what's wrong with me? Why am I doing this? How can I, and trying to figure all that, and there's these rages and you're being pinned, and then Teachers are not helpful. They call CPS on you. They, trying to get your kids taken away. Like, especially in Nevada.
Sorry, the sun was getting a little hot. I was going to put my umbrella up, but the kids have run off with the Nile.
But I will say that going through as a child, where the manipulation with family members of trying to pin me against one parent or the other parent, or even sitting there thinking or feeling that you're the cause of the divorce when they're your parents. Some parents, not in all cases, but your parents are not the ones making you feel that way, or you don't feel like you're loved by one parent because they're not around as often. It does so much damage to the mentality of the child, and then it's dismissed as just behavioral issues.
Exactly. Well, it does so much more than when you have parents that are outwardly detesting one another. What the
Yes.
child is hearing, or let's just say we have one parent, okay? Mom is just constantly, even whenever he steps out of line, does something, oh, you're just like your dad. They hear nothing but disgust of the dad. Internally, what's happening to that child is that child is saying, if you hate my mom or my dad, that's a part of me too. So internally, they begin to reject that parts of themselves when they show up and sound like mom.
Yes.
It's not
Yes.
acceptable, you know. It's that is where the real, you know, damages start to set in. These kids literally begin to reject themselves.
And people don't realize that when you're talking bad about another parent, whether you are the divorcee of the parent or a part of the family, it doesn't matter. It affects just the same. Because all children want is to be accepted and loved. That is it.
They are not grown to. When a child is born, they're not born to knowing the hate. They're not born into knowing the difference. They are born into just love. And as they grow, all they want to do is to be accepted by everybody around them. That's why they do all these little things. They see a smile on your face and they go, "Oh, that's happiness.
Yeah.
That's the happiness. I'm going to keep doing that." Or they see a sad, angry face. They're going, "They don't like that. I won't do that." You know, that
The social acceptance is absolutely integrated into us as human beings, period.
yes, and people don't recognize
it's a
that.
part of our genetic code.
It's
You
a
know,
part of our survival. That's
we
how
all
we
are
survive.
born with the intuition and things that, you know, to be able to or with awareness, but we lose it. You know, we conform and we box our feelings up and become numb.
Yes.
And
Or we start to numb if we don't become numb naturally.
And then that's what leads us to the idea of not wanting to be in this world anymore because we don't feel that love, we don't feel that acceptance, we don't feel that we belong, no matter if it's a friend group or family, or we don't feel like we're supposed to be here anymore because that pain is just conflicting consistently in our mind. Once it's embedded, it's hard to get out. I honestly consider
and
it a
that's, you
parasite.
know, I want to take a moment to share a therapy that really changed my life, because despite my best efforts, I come a long ways with the PTSD, but there were just still parts of me that emotionally I felt trapped, like I just couldn't escape, you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
And I started doing it's EDMR tap therapy, where the trauma is stored in your nervous system. You know, I don't know if you've ever had the opportunity to read the
Your
body
vagus
senses
nerve.
before,
Yeah.
but it's not just your vagus nerve. So you know, when we say that we're, you know, sick, illness, it's from within. Like as within, so without. You know, so it's what we're feeding that's coming out. Um, so if you've got, you know, trauma stored in this nerve here and in this nerve here and this nerve, I'm not sure where the nerves all connect, but say this is your gallbladder meridian, right? Your temple, where your nerve comes down here. So whatever trauma is trapped in there, it's eventually going to start causing problems to your organ that it's connected to. So that's how we become diseased. We're diseased on the inside, and the disease comes out. We get
Yeah.
sickly. So as you're doing, you know, your tap therapy, you're also doing these statements and affirmations where you're rewriting your subconscious, because it doesn't matter how many times you tell yourself like the opposite, unless you reprogram what's been programmed in your mind by causing like a friction. Same with like waterways. All of our waterways are cool. Our body needs cool water. If you just immerse yourself in some cold water, the nightmares would just go away. Because
You know,
our
that's kinda
bodies are
funny. I
made
never
to
did
heal
that.
themselves and to overcome the traumas. But if we don't put the proper natural tools in place, we're just going to be stuck. It's going to get stuck in here.
Mm-hmm.
That explains why some people can get into a shower and just cry.
Yeah, and that's what I did at the beginning of I was what I was doing was I was doing the cry therapy, where when you're first dealing with the CPTSD and you're finding yourself in different environments, and then all of a sudden you just burst out in tears and you're having a hard time controlling those things. What I learned was the cry therapies. You put yourself in a safe environment, a comforting place, and you for me, some people listen to music, some people do affirmations, whatever the case may be. But basically, you get yourself to allow that out. You give yourself the opportunity in the moment to let it out so that it doesn't overflow or spew out in environments that it doesn't need to. So I started doing that, and I would always use the bath. I would do like the spiritual baths and stuff like that. Or showers. There was one time I got in the shower and I always, whenever I take a shower, I do warm, and then at the end of my shower, I do cold. And when I do my cold, I do some affirmations and I do a little prayer. It's just the thing that God and I do, you know? And, but there was one time I got into the shower and I literally just, I had no control of it. That cold water hit me and I just was crying, and I sat there for, I don't know, 20, 30 minutes in the shower, just on the shower floor, couldn't get up, snot, tears, everything, with the water just hitting on my back. And I have a septic tank, so I don't do stuff like that, you know? Yeah, that's a really good way to overflow your septic tank, you know? But I couldn't help it. I couldn't even I was so immersed into that crying that I was so uncontrollable, I couldn't even stand up. Andre, will you go tell him to... Thank you. But, you know, even though it was really hard in the moments, and even though it felt like I was never going to get out of those moments, I was able to. You just got to get through it. Like you said, the only way out of it is through it. And that it's hard. It's so hard, and it gets ugly.
We weren't taught how to get through our emotions.
We were never taught that we were allowed to sit in them. We were never taught that it was okay to sit in them and experience them. We were told, no, they're not valid. You don't need those. That's wrong. You don't feel that. That's what I was told my entire life was, that's not what you're feeling. You're feeling this.
Not to call you out, but the one thing you've always told me is you're too sensitive.
You're right. I did. I absolutely did. But that was my training too.
I know.
That's where the generational crap steps in. But, you know, you are right. I did. I was because I was in the middle of all of that myself, and that's what I was told. That nothing I was experiencing was right.
Yeah. But the difference is
you recognize
being aware and being accountable.
Yeah.
You know, and that's how you break it. That's how you heal it.
Yeah.
Yes, and that's 100% another reason why we are doing this is because I call her out.
Mm-hmm.
We talk about it. We talk about the traumas that have been passed down that I have to reconcile with, that I have to deal with, that, you know,
But I caused them. And she has every right to tell me. She needs to tell me. And I need to look at her and go, I am sorry for that. Not to excuse it, because I'm not. There was no excuse for it. I should have been better. And I apologize that I wasn't, you know?
You know, and that's one thing, being able to talk about this to the person, you know, because I know the one thing that's happening recently, and I've seen this a lot, is that people are stating childhood trauma is not an excuse to be a poor adult or have poor adult actions. And nobody is excusing the actions of an adult, but childhood trauma still
creates the adult.
It still creates the adult, and then these traumas are passed down to their children, and it's a continuous cycle. So,
right? Are we hypersexual, or did your generation molest us?
It very Yeah.
I didn't hear that. I'm sorry.
I said, they want to identify us or label us as hypersexual,
Uh huh.
but are we hypersexual, or did the generation before us molest us?
Thank
Like,
you.
like you either
Multiple
go one or
times.
two
You've
ways when that
been,
happens
you've
to you.
been
You're either going to be like for sex or like not for it.
exactly. It
And I was
literally
taught that's what
damages
love
us.
was, and I wanted to be loved.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
That's all
That was what made
that's
me
what we asked.
special.
That's why they claim it. Oh, that well, you had to be asking for it because I wanted to feel loved for once because you couldn't offer me that love.
My abuser in the middle of the act, because my body had natural reactions, used that against me and told me I must be liking it because he could tell, because, and I'm gonna be we're raw, because I was getting wet. Those were his exact words to me. I can tell you're liking it because you're getting wet. No, I wasn't liking it. Those are natural body reactions. I can't control what that does down there. You know what I mean? I can control that as much as I can. I have a better way of controlling a yeast infection than I do of what that does down there. You know what I mean? I cannot control that. But being 14 years old and being in the situation I was in, being told that, I, for the longest of times, thought that was true. Like, this is the first time I've actually ever have told anybody that. This is the first conversation I've actually told anybody that ever. But they do that. They do that because they're grooming. They're making you think that you liked it or you wanted it. And the people that are with them saying, well, you must have wanted it, you're just as much of a groomer as the person that was doing it. Period.
Any dad that can say that to his daughter when she confesses it.
That is the worst fear for any person who has ever been molested or sexually assaulted or anything across the lines. That is the worst fear.
Well, it's not being believed. It's finally getting past that year of my life and going and filing the police report.
I never did. What ended up happening was he took care of it himself, unfortunately. And I always felt really guilty for this until I, later on in years of dealing with this, and this is partially within the past year and a half, I've dealt with a lot of that stuff since I've been in recovery. He went out 2 weeks later after my mom left him and kidnapped a woman by knife point and took her back to the house and raped her countless times and held her captive for 3 days. And when he had left, he had not secured her properly, and she was able to get out of the duct tape enough. He had broken her leg, he had broken her arm, broken her nose. He had raped her in multiple areas. And she was able to somehow hobble her way out of the house and into the street, and was able to flag down some help. Stark naked, beaten, bleeding, bruised, broken bones, the whole 9 yards. And when I found out, he called my mom up and he tried telling my mom that it was all her fault because she left him. It was all my fault because I told on him. Talk
about manipulation.
Oh yeah, no, that was the key. I mean, this was a man. We're talking a month earlier than that. We were staying in an FBI agent's cabin. We had stayed the weekend in Utah in an FBI agent's cabin a month prior to all of this. The manipulation is real, people.
It is. I mean, look, I filed my police report, and my oldest son had run away in the midst of all of this from my dad's house, and I'm at the police station. The lead for the juvenile department, Beth Russell, stepped outside, and I could hear her on the phone through the wall. and told my dad, "Don't worry, Mr. Inman. We see what she's trying to do to you, and we're not going to let her." And they proceeded to put charges against me, criminalize me.
For speaking the truth?
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. Yes, I'm the one that went to jail. You know, my dad played around with his political friends and his sheriff buddy and would put me in
You're the one that
jail.
went to
And,
jail? I'm
oh,
sorry, I
she's
had to
been in
go
there
tell
too
somebody.
long. Get her out. I know. The longest I spent was 19 days. I did 11
Wow.
days in parish, and we were over flooded with prisoners, so they transferred 11 of us up to a men's penitentiary, one of the worst prisons in our state. And I spent 9 more days there. And he found out 2 weeks in that I was not only still in, but had been transferred and was in a really bad place. And he fought like hell to get me out before the family found out.
So he put
But
you in.
the judge that the DUI was under, I've had a DUI over my head since 2018. It disappears
Uh-huh.
out the system, and then I get a new warrant released on me. Okay. The last time when the DUI, the judge that was originally under had recently got caught beating on his wife, so he was trying to walk a straight line and didn't want to play cricket politics with my daddy. So they passed it on and moved it over to another judge that would play with him. Well, just so happened that Saturday, the sitting judge was the one that didn't want to play with him. And he had to call and get a representative from New Orleans to come up to Ponchatoula and stand over his desk and make him sign to get me out of jail.
So he
On
put you
Saturday.
in there and then fought to get you out?
Yep. Because he was
Playing the
just,
manipulation
doing
game.
his playing manipulation, playing with the system, put me in there for his timeout, teaching me his little lesson. But his little
Uh-huh.
lesson,
While he's
just like,
acting all innocent and Mr. High Hero
and
Daddy on
it's
the
like,
outside.
oh well, if they find out she's in prison, like she's not here anymore. Yeah. Then he fought to get me out. And
Wow.
it's crazy because the power that he has over these people. My aunt that paid to get me
Flying
out, like
monkeys
he got
doing
the
their
release.
jobs,
I
right?
still had to pay $1,900 to get out to close the DUI out, which we thought was the case. She won't even give me those records to prove the DUI was paid for because she can't outwardly publicly support me, or else he'll destroy her life. Like when 9 years ago, when this all hit and I came out with my truth, every single person, all my lifelong friends of 30 years, they were threatened. If they did not step away from me, their families would be next.
And that's exactly how the narcissistic system works.
To hold control, to try to keep control of you.
And in the same time, they're trying to act like a lovey daddy. They're so Mr. Innocent, and they've done everything in the world to help you. And da 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 da. Yeah, I know that one all too well.
Well, here I am. I'm going to keep living my truth. And
As you should.
I'm not going to apologize for it. I'm not going to be
Nope.
quiet about it.
Nope.
I mean, look what just happened. I'm not even going to go there. But the truth always comes out. I did learn my lesson, and I kept receipts this time. I just sat there and recorded a year and a half. I mean, it took me an hour and a half to record the text message thread of 5 years of what co-parenting looked like with this man.
Mm-hmm.
And even at the death of my other son's dad told me he'd take it all from me. And when we're in our most vulnerable moments, that's when they love to strike and show you just how much power they got up over you. Well,
Yeah.
you took my kids, well, you can't take nothing else from me. You certainly ain't gonna take my voice. As long as I'm here and living, we gonna know.
Oh, you've got a voice on here
I
always.
will not, my silence would be like a deletion of me slowly from the system.
That's what this is for. Is for people like us to have a voice. I hated feeling like I didn't have a voice. I knew what she went through and her not having a voice. Other people, there's so many other people who feel like they don't have a voice, and they should. And this is what this is for anything.
Well, the thing about that voice, and something that we don't talk about, okay, so my last attempt at suicide, in my late 20s, it took me almost 10 years, ladies,
Yeah.
of within my own family, using my voice just a little bit, speaking up for myself here and there, getting all those crazy looks like, who does she think she is, before I could actually roar. And it took my child shivering in a hot tub thinking he was going to be the next one kicked out the family, because that's how our family works. I was raised knowing that of the 3 sisters my dad had, if they weren't walking the line, he said, we're not going to see them this Christmas, and we might not even see them on Easter. They may make it next year.
How dare them have
So
any kind
these
of
kids think
variation
that
of those ideas.
And my kid thought, okay, well, I've messed up. I'm about family now.
Mm-hmm.
And I became the family secret for 9 more years. No more. No more.
Yeah. Absolutely no more. I agree with you.
No more. Well, ladies, it's been a blast. But I am not plugged into a power source, and my computer's saying 2 hours is all you get.
Well, we really appreciate you being on here, and we look forward to having you on again.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Thank
Have a
you.
wonderful day, and
You
keep
too.
up the good fight.
You too.
Because,
You too. We'll fight together, girl.
well, I mean, it's a shame that we have to learn that we're the good fight too. We're worth the fight.
Yeah, we are. We are worth the fight. We're worth every bit of it and then some. Like there is no price on this in here. There's no price on this piece. There's no price that you cannot put a price on it. You cannot. It is that incredible. Knowing that you are worth it, knowing that none of this was all the manipulation and all of that, when you see it for what it really truly is, and it takes a lot to see that. When you see it for what it truly is, and you're able to see you and find you through that, it is the most wonderful thing in the world.
It really is. It truly is.
And we appreciate you, and we appreciate you having your voice and you speaking up too.
Having your courage.
Yes.
Right back at you, ladies.
Thank
We
you
gotta
so
Thank you.
much.
bold. We gotta be unapologetically bold,
That's
Exactly.
right.
because they were
That's right.
unapologetically bold in what
They
did.
were unapologetically bold, and now it's our turn.
That's right.
That's
I'm
right.
not the
And they're
villain, I'm
still
just the
unapologetic.
consequence.
Well, it was great, and we look forward to having you on here again, and talking to you some more, and keep us updated on the podcast and stuff in the book.
Yes.
I will. Absolutely. Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. Well, y'all have a wonderful day. Make it amazing, because you are already amazing.
Thank you.
You too, Grace.
You too, Grace.
You're welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye. Is it stopping?
Nope.
There we go. I don't know how to do it. You do it.